this one's up there at that kind of level. It's the sort of innings that people are going to be talking about for decades and decades to come.
But the way he played was just so made for that situation.
And what he was doing.
And no wonder he's such a fan favourite as well, when he's scoring at such a rapid rate, you know.
If England played the way they play today in future test matches, Australia's bowlers, including Scott Boland in particular, can just hang it out wide of off stump and know that there's going to be some nicks that come, because that's what happens on Australian pitches.
Hello and welcome to Nine's recap of the second day of the first Ashes test, and as it turns out, it's the end of the first Ashes test as well. Australia claiming a famous victory thanks to an incredible knock from Travis Head, a 69-ball century steering the Aussies home for an 8-wicket win. Sam Jordan here from 9 News, joined by Dan Breddick from The Age and Tom Decent from the Sydney Morning Herald. Gentlemen, who wants to start trying to make sense of this? Because we saw a lot of things unfold today, and I don't think there's much to be able to compare it to.
It was unbelievable, and the fact that we were sitting there at lunch thinking this test match will probably crawl into day 3 and England will have a massive lead and Australia will be losing the first test, much like they did to India last year. It just turned around so unbelievably quickly, and to then witness a situation where, 205 to win, Travis Head played, it's one of the greatest test match knocks of all time. There's no qualifiers to that. It's one of those that's always going to stand apart. I mentioned Roy Fredericks, who made a big 100 off a few number of balls for the West Indies against Lillian Thompson here at the WWOS in 1975. This one's up there at that kind of level. It's the sort of innings that people are going to be talking about for decades and decades to come. And in the here and now, it's absolutely flattened England.
Stunning. Like, we were joking about a 2-day test, but we didn't really think it would come to fruition, right, when England are effectively 1 for 100 midway through the day. And I thought their batting in that period was very ordinary as well. Like, if they maybe don't employ the Bazball style, or Harry Brooks sees it out a little bit, or Joe Root puts a higher price on his wicket, then we're not in this situation. And if Usman Khawaja doesn't hurt his back, they joked in the press conference about basically being happy about this back spasm because it meant Travis had got to open the batting. But the way he played was just so made for that situation. You could see from very early on they were going to come out and play the way they did in the first innings, and everything came off. And I just can't believe how many balls actually got to the boundary. Like, normally fielders get found out or guys don't hit gaps. It was like pure ball striking. It felt like a T20.
I was going to wait till a little bit later in this episode to bring it up, but Tommy, you wrote an analysis piece for the Sydney Morning Herald this week reflecting on Travis Head's form, which was completely fair as well. He's had a really lean run. This was an extraordinary return to form.
Yeah, 160 odd runs in the last 3 months, albeit in white ball cricket predominantly, except a Shield game for South Australia. The piece was just pondering the question of what does it mean. We know that history has shown that he's come in previously into series, not a lot of runs as well, but managed to just wipe that clean. And said he actually felt quite good in the first innings, felt like his shape was lining up very well. And once you get on a run and the confidence builds, and he said that he battled a lot with Jake Willard, obviously at Sheffield Shield level, and immense confidence, and really wanted to shield him a bit as well. Obviously went out and faced the first ball, and Jake at the other end, and worked beautifully together. And Marnus Labuschagne, a really underrated knock there too.
It was the sort of situation where England were confident. Ben Stokes told us that at the end of their third innings, they'd lost wickets quickly, but they were 200 on. There hadn't been any score like that for the match. They felt like they were going to be able to just rumble in and do to Australia again what they did the previous night. But we all know that, Travis Head is a captain's nightmare. Like, if he gets up and going, there's really no field you can set. He has the capacity to score all around the ground, and what he was doing.
And no wonder he's such a fan favourite as well. When he's scoring at such a rapid rate, that is exactly what he can do.
That's right. And, his confidence, as Tom mentioned, the first innings, he did look pretty good. He played a shot that would have annoyed him to get out to it. But we actually saw a few examples of him playing that shot with great effect to the boundary today. And when we saw Ben Stokes afterwards, Ben Stokes is one of the great, test match captaincy tacticians. Like, you can say what you like about Bazball when they bat, but in the field, England are always pretty clever and always finding ways to keep themselves in the game. They were just left without any kind of option. And to see that happen so quickly, to see an Ashes test over in 2 days, it really, it's got to be a defining one for the series.
Well, just on what you were saying there about, the way that England, or their lack of response, it actually had a fair bit of the Ben Stokes about it, didn't it? It just seemed like the game just got out of control and England simply couldn't arrest the momentum when Head started playing the way he did, which has already started the conversation, at least anyway, about what happens moving forward. I just had a chat to former Australian captain Mark Taylor, former opener too, who on his way past said that he did say on Triple M radio that he put it to Trav and said, mate, you have to open the batting in Brisbane. He said that Trav didn't shut it down on air when they were speaking. We do know that in the past it has been something that actually was floated by Travis himself, and he didn't really hide that in some of the various interviews that he did do this afternoon as well. Is it something that they're actually going to consider?
You have to think strongly about it. Yeah, clearly Usman Khawaja is back. You would imagine probably is right there. Jake Weatherall doesn't shoot the lights out in this test. I think they will stick for him in Brisbane, but clearly he's done it in the past overseas, obviously not in Australia. His ability to just genuinely punish bad bowling and put pressure back on bowlers is second to none. Fast bowling, didn't look overawed at all. Yeah, it's clearly a conversation they'll have to have. But yeah, he was very, very chuffed at himself tonight, and so were Australia as well. And looking at Ben Stokes, he was just trying to wrap his head around what's happened the last 3 hours there. It was all over in 28.5 overs at least, 28.2 overs, stunning.
And yeah, one element about this as well, of course, the test match being over in 2 days, you might be able to couch it as Travis Head's cost Cricket Australia money. I wouldn't. I would be saying that Bazball has cost Cricket Australia money in the sense that they were unable to bat for much time really in either innings, and left Australia in a position where they could go for victory with Travis Head tonight, and that's not insignificant given what this summer is meant to be. We had crowds of 50,000 each of the first 2 days, record crowd for any test match ever in Perth just for 2 days. Imagine if this test match had been getting to day 3, day 4, how much bigger an occasion it is. There's going to be a lot of England supporters out there tonight who are going to be like, well, gee, I paid a lot of money to be here to not see a whole lot of cricket.
And the damage to Cricket Australia's bottom line is going to be $4 million for those lost ticket sales. About 40,000 fans were expected here on a Sunday. I bet they're happy that they scheduled the test on a Friday, not a Thursday, because it wouldn't have made the weekend. I was up in Brisbane for the South Africa test in 2022, which was over in 2 days, and I don't think I'd see another one in this decade, and here we are. Yeah,
it's a pretty remarkable moment, especially when you talk about the interest in the crowd figures that we have seen as well. It has just been so anticipated this series, and they already had 40,000 odd tickets sold for tomorrow, I'm pretty sure, and they were looking to get a few more through the gates, but unfortunately not to be for Cricket Australia. I'm sure the Aussies don't mind wrapping it up in 2 days, that's for sure. Look, it kind of feels like it's it's a little bit unfair in a way, just the way that Travis Head rightly has grabbed all the headlines at the end of this test match. When we look at that performance from Mitchell Starc, I'm glad to see he was named man of the match as well, because what he did produce with his 10 wickets, I know it's been so widely spoken about, no Pat Cummins, no Josh Hazlewood. Starc really did put this attack on his back, and although he was well supported, he led from the front. It was a remarkable display.
Travis spoke in his press conference about wanting to do Mitch's 7 for justice. The fact that, rarely does a guy, woo!
There'll be more of it too.
Yeah. Rarely does a guy get 7 from the first dig and their team are effectively having a first innings deficit, effectively in day 2. So Travis spoke about wanting to come good on that, and obviously took the huge wicket of Zach Crawley in the second innings today with a great catch from Joe Root. He deserves all the kudos. Bowling with a hockey puck, which they're talking about. I reckon the ball that they had in the first innings was pretty poor, and managed to get the job done in a world where Josh Hazlewood doesn't play and Pat Cummins don't play, and I'm not sure if either of them will play in Brisbane. Handy old day, and they get 3 more days rest.
Yeah, well, one of the things, as Tom rightly pointed out about Mitchell Starc, to get some insights from Steve Smith into what he thought that Mitchell Starc brought to the game. We were talking quite a bit on the first day about how he was using wobble seam really well. It sounds like they didn't have any alternative, because he couldn't actually get the ball to stay with an upright seam to be able to swing it. He swung the ball quite a bit today, in fact, with a different ball. But another thing Steve Smith said that kept Australia in the game was that because it was a lead of 50 in a game where they'd only bowled 30 odd overs in the first innings, it meant that the bowlers were going to be relatively fresh. They knew genuinely today they would get another crack at England when the conditions were still going to help them a bit with the ball. And the fact that they were able to do that was Mitchell Starc backing up, and also Scott Boland finding the right length, which he really struggled to do on day one. He was able to bowl another of those spells that he's done in Australia where he gets wickets in clumps in quick succession, and he did that today at a really critical time. And then again, Brendan Doggett didn't disgrace himself either, played a really important role to support those guys on debut. And we got to remember as well that not that he was, I don't think, going to bowl much, but Nathan Lyon got hit on the hip at the start of the day and was on and off the field. So it wasn't just Usman Khawaja who Australia had to worry about.
Yeah, that's right. You mentioned Scott Boland there. Let's give him his moment as well, because so much has been made about the way that England were going to go after him and the way that they have gone after him in the first 2 days. Even today, Ben Duckett really took him on early. The fact that he firstly, I guess, wrestled that momentum back and started putting pressure on England, and then to claim those 3 big wickets. Tom, how big is that going to be for the rest of the series as well? Just to have the confidence for him to know, and I'm sure he has confidence within his own ability at all times, but just to know that he can do it in those moments.
Totally, and the game was won there. Like in that period, it really was, particularly on day 2. So, massive confidence. Clearly wasn't getting a lot of help with the ball, perhaps in the first innings, which has been noted. Massive confidence boost. Clearly still averaging under 20 in Test cricket, still an incredible career. And be very fascinated to see which way they go. In Brisbane, Nathan Lyon bowled 2 overs here. And it is a pink ball test in Brisbane now. I know the main skipper, Pat Cummins, has said that he will play every test this summer, but it might be a narrative that does come up throughout. And Michael Neser waiting in the wings as well, and a fairly handy debut from Brendan Doggett. So Australia with some good options. And the result as well. Maybe Pat Cummins said he's still hopeful of playing Brisbane. Not so sure.
He looked pretty good here in the nets. Bretto, where do you see it at with Pat's chances?
I think the fact that Australia 1-0 up in the series gives them a little bit more wriggle room to figure out if he's absolutely right for Brisbane or whether he needs another week. I think that's pretty helpful for them. I think the other thing that's helpful for them is actually England's approach. So one thing that was clear about Ben Stokes tonight was he wanted to give a lot of credit to Travis Head. He wanted to say that, his bowlers were left a bit bereft in that situation. They thought they had the win in the game, but he wouldn't criticise his batters. He wouldn't say that they were, choosing the wrong options or that they, that their approach had cost England an opportunity to really drive it home for Australia. So if England played the way they play today in future Test matches, Australia's bowlers, including Scott Boland in particular, can just hang it out wide of off stump and know that there's going to be some nicks that come, because that's what happens on Australian pitches. Yeah,
that's right. I know this is a trivial thing to note given the magnitude of what we have seen today. I love the response from England when Travis Head did get out. I know that there has been a rivalry between England and Australia, particularly over the last couple of years, but it was nice to see the way that they actually did get around in Ben Stokes in particular. It looked like he ran half the field to shake Travis Head's hand. But just on England as well, Tom, going 1-0 down in a series in a country you haven't won a test match in 14 years is never going to be good for confidence, but the way that it happened today, do you think that this is the kind of defeat that can scar them for the rest of the summer?
I think it's a good thing it's not back-to-back tests and their guys didn't bowl a lot of overs, but clearly it was chalk and cheese compared to what we saw yesterday with their quicks. The paces were down, ineffectual. Travis Head the biggest.
I love Head.
You know what? It's a line that we've been hearing from all the Australians. Thank God this is a digital program and this kind of thing we can get away with.
Yeah, absolutely. Loose. Aussie or English? Hopefully.
It did have some kind of accent to it. I think that might just be WA.
Imagine paying your hard-earned being an England fan today. Effectively 1 for 100, thinking your team's poised to win their first test in 14 or 15 years, and then it goes down the gurgle like that. Yeah. There'll be some very, very drunk English fans, I reckon, in the city tonight.
Yeah, that's right. Bretto, just where do you see the damage psychologically being for England after what we have seen here in the last, I know I keep saying it, 2 days. Can you believe this test went 2 days?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I think the way that England have worked over the past 3 or 4 years with Bazball, a big part of it is the psychological ability to move on from things and not be too hung up on what we did wrong and be able to move forward, all that kind of stuff. That is going to help them, but there's a level of I guess human psychology where you're saying all the right things and all that kind of stuff, but you got to think that irrespective of what they say to each other, it's going to be in the back of their minds that they had this test match on a plate, and it's gone within 4 hours, and that's that's something that is going to be hard for them to to get back from, particularly given the situation where Australia hold the Ashes. You know, if England held the Ashes, 1-0 down is easier to come back from, but it's very, very hard to win a series and reclaim a trophy from 1-0 down. I mean, we know that Australia did it last summer against India, but you know, you think about that. They won 3-1. The series was still in doubt right till the last day of the fifth test. So that's what England are up against now, and doing it away from home is even harder.
Gee, there's so much we can talk about. We're going to leave it there because I know you two still have to file for the Age and the Sydney Morning Herald. And thank you very much for tuning in of what only has been the past 2 days here in the first Ashes Test. Australia taking a 1-0 series lead. We'll see you again in Brisbane.